the judge.
So thank you very much. You saw what we saw. That was an incredible display. I've never seen anything like it in my life. A tyrant. And everyone's talking about it. This is what we have. We have an acting judge, appointed judge by Democrats, by the club. And they're keeping now, I guess this is our 4th week, soon to be our 5th week. Not campaigning, but you saw what happened, what just took place in that court. And hopefully the motion to dismiss this trial will go through, because this trial is a disaster for our country. It's a disaster for New York State, New York City. Greg Jarrett just says, where exactly is the crime? To quote a memorable line from Shakespeare in Love, I don't know, it's a mystery. There is just no crime. Andy McCarthy, if it's unconstitutional for Texas to enforce federal immigration law, how is it constitutional for New York to enforce federal election law? They're going by federal law. It's never happened before. Nobody's ever seen anything like this. This is a witch hunt. This is a witch hunt. This is to damage crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of our country, by far, to damage his political opponent. That's all this is. A highly political judge, a totally conflicted judge, who just did something that nobody's ever seen. And the press is not happy, I don't imagine. They just got thrown out of a courthouse. Nobody's ever seen anything quite like it. These things are consistent. Bragg has no authority to enforce election law. And we did nothing wrong. Ted Cruz just said it's over 200 years. Never once has a president of the United States been indicted over no crime. No crime. Molly Hemingway, very smart woman. This is a show trial. There is no actual crime or evidence. Molly Hemingway, respected by everybody, by the way. Here's a very liberal gentleman, but a very talented one, critically acclaimed director, Oliver Stone. Haven't heard his name mentioned in a while. It's a new form of warfare. It's called lawfare, and that's what they're using against Trump. That's Oliver Stone, who I think is a super liberal, but even he's talking. I must tell you, I've never had such liberal, or as they say nowadays, progressive support. Mark Levin, you're living through what is not only the worst presidency in American history, that's Biden, when it comes to domestic and foreign affairs, but when it comes to our Constitution, the rule of law, law and order, which is the core to this republic, Biden is dismantling it, and he's destroying it. I don't even know if it's him. I think it's the people around his desk, that beautiful, resolute desk in the Oval Office. It's a horrible thing. The country's never been in this position. We're doing badly in so many different ways, and we're falling apart, and we're not respected in the world anymore. They're looking at us and saying, hey, they're no different than we are. Bad countries are saying that. They're saying that the United States is no different than we are. Gavin Wax, the globalist elite, severely miscalculated by declaring war on Trump. I guess he's referring to the fact that the polls are through the roof, but I'm not even talking about that. And the polls are the highest they've ever been. Andrew and Katie Cherkasky, who are terrific lawyers, as everyone knows, it's passed on for Judge Bichon to dismiss this case. Trump's business records, there's no false entry. By the way, they paid a legal expense and they marked it legal expense, and I say it every day. They could have said construction. They could have said this is for construction purposes. This is for some other purposes. You're building a building. They say building expense. They called legal fees, which is legal expense. They called it legal expense. They paid a lawyer money, legal expense. And in the lawyer's bill, he talks of retainer. It's a retainer. He calls it a retainer. Former Acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker, the prosecution has presented absolutely no evidence of a crime. David Katrin, the American Spectator, good people over there, Judge Mershon's animosity toward Trump and his inability to ensure a fair trial is not lost on the voters. Never seen anything like it. And this goes on and on. Ross Duhat, New York Times. I would defy anyone to summarize the underlying situation in which a presidential candidate could be sent to prison for a misdemeanor offense, very small, but there's not even a misdemeanor. For a misdemeanor offense elevated by a second crime for which he isn't even being charged. I'm not even being charged for it. They didn't know what to charge him. They haven't even charged me with the crime. You know what the crime is? I beat Hillary Clinton. That's what the crime is. And they don't want me to beat, on behalf of, I think, 200 million people, they don't want me to beat Biden. Okay? But it's a shame. This is what they've done. And just to finish out, without the description coming across as somewhat Kafkaesque, the CNN panel just came out. This is significant. There is no direct link to Trump in this alleged conspiracy. That's from CNN. Laura Coates of CNN, not a fan of mine, as I understand it, possibly fatally undermines the prosecution's case. This is a disaster. But she said here, undermines the prosecution's case. This case should be dropped by the judge. I think the judge, if he did that, could gain the respect back. We have to, either the appellate court has to step in, something has to happen. Think of it, the Republican Party, one of the two great parties, nominate somebody to be their candidate, and that candidate now has been sitting here for almost 5 weeks in a freezing cold icebox, listening to this stuff, no crime. Ellie Honig of CNN, the crux of the case is Trump knew this and that. Let's see, he says some statement down here. Trump didn't know. He never would have agreed to be robbed by Cohen. He absolutely didn't know. This is a bomb being dropped on the prosecution's case. This is cruising to prosecution credibility. I'll tell you what. New York State is being hurt so badly by this. And they're watching all over the world. And businesses are going to be leaving the state. They already are, unfortunately. But they're going to be leaving because they can't be subject to this. This and Gorin and Kaplan, other judges that have just created a horrible scar on our Constitution. Hopefully the appellate courts will take care of it. But this did not ask Cohen about that or on direct. And this is Ellie Honig, have not made him plead guilty to larceny because you know what's taken place. I mean, you saw that. I won't even mention it because remember, I have a gag order. I'm not supposed to be talking about certain things. And so I'm being very careful, but you saw what happened. And this is CNN mentioning it, which it is, larceny, which it is. And you know what they're talking about because there was an admittance. The money I won't say that. It's the money so I won't say that. In fact, you're going to have to get this one because I can't read it. I've been gagged from reading this. But it's a vicious statement by a respected person at CNN, Ellie Honig. So you'll have to read that one yourself because I've been gagged. Let's see, it turns out now that Trump was, that's right. You can read that. I can't read it because I'm not allowed to say it. A CNN legal commentator. The prosecutor misled this jury. So there is a case to be made because 5 people have stated it very professionally that the prosecutor should be prosecuted. District Attorney Soros Bragg should be prosecuted because he knew when he submitted his case all about the lies, and therefore he's committed a crime. Many people have said that they should turn this around. He knew that this was a fake case. He knew that the lies are all over the place. We're not just talking about a small amount. Also, you have to go get the Southern District's about a 28-page book on lies. which the judge wouldn't allow. And by the way, the judge wouldn't allow that. The Southern District, highly respected, a book of 28 pages, I believe, or more, of lies. We're not allowed to put it in. The expert witness that we have, the best there is in election law, Brad Smith. He's considered the Rolls Royce, or we'll bring it back to an American car, Cadillac. But the best there is. He can't testify, not being allowed to testify. And you saw what happened to a highly respected lawyer today, Bob Costello. Wow. I've never seen anything like that. Highly respected. But remember this. We can't put in an expert witness. We're not allowed to put in an expert witness. Nobody's ever heard of it before. You know, election law is very complicated, actually. And we're not allowed to have an expert witness because the judge wants to rule on it. He said, we don't need an expert witness, I guess. He said he'll rule on it. No, he needs help. And we have the number one person, either side will admit it, Brad Smith, on a very complex law where we did nothing wrong. I will tell you that right now. And he doesn't want him to testify. That's because he's going to say we did nothing wrong. Clay Travis. Oops, I can't say that one because he's going to have a gag order. Brett Tobin goes through a whole big thing on a witness today, so I can't talk about it. Bob Sexton, the exact same thing. Kim Parlatore, who's a very good lawyer, CNN commentator. It's not only goes to the credibility, it also goes to Alvin Bragg's office's credibility. How did they not get this out ahead of time? Why didn't they? That's what everyone's asking now. How did they put something like this out? And then he goes on to things I'm not allowed to talk about. Can you believe it? Here I am, vice presidential. We have 15 people that I'm supposed to be meeting about who's going to be our vice president. But I'm stuck in the refrigerator all day. The presidential nominee, I'm down here by an acting judge. He's acting. And you know who appointed him? Democrats in a clubhouse. But hopefully, I tell you, for the good, and I hope the governor steps forward and the mayor steps forward, because you can't go. And it's like we have an armed camp outside. I mean, if you're a civilian, you can't get within 3 blocks of this courthouse. All you have is police. And they're in blue, and they look good to me. But I'll tell you what, you don't see any civilians outside. I never saw so many iron gates as I've seen the last 5 weeks. Andy McCarthy, to show he stole from the Trump organization, even as they're structuring a deal, blah, blah, blah. And now I can't talk about it because, again, I have a gag order. So I think the case is going very well. We've asked for termination of the case. This case should be terminated. This shouldn't go anywhere. It should be terminated right now. And New York State has to build up its system again. New York State can't let this happen. Can't let this happen. There were no crimes. We did nothing wrong. And I want to get back to campaigning. I'm representing millions and millions, hundreds of millions of people. In the meantime, Russia and China are now good friends. They want to take over the world. Iran is developing a nuclear weapon. And that's not going to be an easy situation when they have it. North Korea is getting frisky, and I get along with him very well, but the current administration, they don't even know his name. We have a lot of things to solve. Inflation's hitting new highs. You see that? They're hitting new highs. I should be out campaigning so we can turn the country around. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow.
Are you having a decision about testifying yet?
Mr. Trump,